Hey there, friends. So you know how I'm always here to encourage you to make the most of what you have in your refrigerator. Well, to start off with today's freezer meal prep, we are going to use some rice that was left over from another meal that I made this week. And I was thinking about what I wanted to put in my freezer, get stocked up on, and definitely a few lunch items, things that are easy to pull out on busy days was on my mind. So we are going to go ahead and make some chicken fried rice with this leftover rice to put into the freezer to use this next month somewhere in some lunch times that need a little bit of help. This is going to be 2 meals worth. So to start off with, we are going to make a sauce. I'm putting some coconut aminos, but you can easily use soy sauce as well. I just like this alternative. And then we're also gonna put a little bit of honey in here. The recipes are always linked below and you'll have exact measurements there. We have some sesame oil as well. And then this is a sauce I've been using a lot in the past year or so. It is the sugar-free sweet chili. You could use regular sweet chili sauce as well. And you're just gonna take a whisk and whisk this together. If you need to make more in the process, you definitely can. You can decide how saucy you want this. Now we're just gonna take some chicken. You could use chicken breast, chicken thighs, chicken tenderloin. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you have on hand or whatever you prefer to pick up at the grocery store. I always like to give you the flexibility to use what is in your freezer if you have frozen chicken as well. So I'm just gonna dice this up into nice bite-sized pieces. And I love chicken fried rice, shrimp fried rice, all of those. So delicious. I am very partial to Asian cuisine. And I know that rice is a big part of that. I love it. If I could eat sushi all the time, I would. Really, really love it. We have some other things on my to-do list to get ready for the freezer today as well. I definitely have a breakfast item on the list. As you guys know, when it comes to freezer meal prep, I'm all about making sure my breakfasts are prepped. They're so simple to prep for the freezer, and it's just one more meal out of the day that you don't have to worry about. Speaking of other proteins, you could also put beef in this as well, if that's what you have on hand, or even a seafood. We are just gonna go ahead and toss our chicken in a little bit of the sauce, not all of the sauce, just a little. And then we're gonna put this into the frying pan. It already smells so delicious. I have turned on my skillet to medium heat and it does have some oil in the bottom. So we're gonna go ahead, put our chicken in and start frying it. While the chicken is frying, we're gonna work on a few other ingredients here. We need to cut up some green onion and we're going to also crack 4 eggs and whisk them just a bit to be dumped into the skillet once we're ready. And I have to give a shout out about these egg cartons. So a lot of you know that we have chickens now and that has been such an exciting thing in our household. But with chickens comes eggs and what to do with them and how to store them. Well, I found these fantastic reusable cartons on Amazon. The latch works super well. They're just so great. We have a couple of them in our house and they're really easy to wash as well. So in case you're looking for something like that, I just had to say something about it and just say how well it's been working for us. So since we're doubling this recipe, it needs 4 eggs since we have 2 per recipe. You can just whisk this up with a fork. It doesn't have to be super whisked, just enough to pour throughout the rice. And then over here I have some frozen mixed veggies that we'll be stirring in as well. Hey friends, we're gonna take a quick break from our meal prep today to share with you about today's video sponsor, BetterHelp. As a lot of you know, and different things that I have shared through other videos, I am really big on backing therapy and counsel. Through the years, I have personally gleaned a lot of helpful advice through therapy. BetterHelp is an online therapy service, and no matter matter what you're going through or what season you are in, BetterHelp can make it easier to accomplish your current goals. All I had to do was fill out a simple questionnaire, and BetterHelp matched me with a therapist in a matter of a couple of days. And something I really appreciate is BetterHelp takes in what is important to you in a therapist, and if it's not a great match, you can switch up at any time for no extra cost. You can connect with a therapist through their diverse network of over 30,000 licensed professionals. Among those therapists, there is a huge range of backgrounds and specialties. They also have an incredible customer support that's there to help if you have any questions. With a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that both you and I can trust. I know in different places of my journey, it feels so good to just be able to talk to someone. BetterHelp is such an amazing tool for so many people, including myself. And right now, if you head to the link in the description box below or go to betterhelp.com/Adaline's home, you can get 10% off your first month of therapy. I don't know about you all, but I absolutely love green onion. I use it in so many recipes. If you've been around a long time, you already know this, but I just love the flavor of it. It's going to be used as a mix-in for this and also a garnish as well. You want to sort of separate the green from the white because we're going to fry the white a little bit with the garlic. All right, so now you're gonna remove the chicken. Once it's done, I like to get a little bit of brown on the chicken. Now I'm gonna turn my heat back just a bit. We're gonna add in just a little bit of oil just to help out the veggies. And we're gonna put our frozen veggies in here. Into this, I'm also going to put the white parts of the onion. It's kind of nice when you're using frozen veggies in a recipe like this because they have that extra moisture that's there and it creates a steam and it sort of steams the veggies really quickly. I'm gonna add in just a little bit of salt across the veggies. Okay, we are not gonna waste any time while we're waiting for those veggies to get tender. This is something that I've gone through phases of doing, and every time I get out of the rhythm of doing it, I'm like, why? Why do I forget to keep up with this? And that is freezing onions. It's always a pain to dice onions for every single recipe, especially on big meal prep days where you're prepping for a week or maybe you're doing some freezer meal prep. It is so convenient to have some diced onion. So I'm gonna try out doing something here. I don't know if this is gonna work. At this point in my life, I do not have one of those dice boxes. You know what I'm talking about, I think. If I do, it's somewhere in like all of my stuff for canning, and I don't have time or the energy to go looking for it. So I might have one. I just can't remember where it's at, and we did just move this past year. So anyways, all of that to say, I do have this thing. And this is our French fry maker. If you've never seen one of these, they're awesome. I'll try to leave the link below. We make homemade French fries all the time, just because we can choose our own oils that we're making them in and all of that. So there is a grid on the top that is sharp. It's a knife, and you put the potato on top, and you use this thing, fits in there perfectly, and you put it down on it, and it cuts your potato into French fries. Well, I'm thinking it might help me out in dicing up these onions. And in the past, when I've done this, a lot of times I vacuum seal them. But I want to show you all a way, even if you don't have a vacuum sealer, that can help your onions last a lot longer in the freezer. And it's a simple way to just sort of help prevent freezer burn. So let's give this a try. I have no clue if it's going to work. I'm just slicing the onion. Had to give it a couple whacks, but it got through. I think it'll work out, and it's gonna cut them nice and small, which one of my children will be ever so grateful for, the small cut onions. All right, we've got some beautifully roasted veggies here. Now we're gonna go ahead and make a spot in the middle to fry our egg. Next, we are gonna go ahead and put the rice in and the rest of the sauce across the rice and our chicken. We're gonna give everything a good stir. Because we will be reheating this whenever we warm it up after taking it out of the freezer, I'm going to go ahead and just let it cool, and then we will put it into freezer bags. Okay, while that was frying, I've been kind of back and forth working on these onions, and onions are flying everywhere at the moment, but I wanted to give you this tip. I would not say this is equal to vacuum sealing. However, if you don't have a vacuum sealer, it is better than not. So what I am doing is I'm using some cheaper Ziploc bags that are not freezer bags, and I have a larger freezer bag here, and I'm squeezing the air out of these. I'm putting half an onion in each bag, and I think I will be able to remember that for sure. So I'm gonna stack these in here, and then I will seal this and just pull out what I need little bit at a time, but it still has that double protection. Since there is no blanching happening with this, and for onions, peppers, and garlic, you don't need to blanch anything to freeze it. I just like to have that extra protection. It can get freezer burnt if it is not packaged correctly. And I think a lot of people get discouraged with freezer meal prep because they aren't packaging things correctly, and then stuff, you know, gets really not nice and doesn't taste good whenever it comes out of the freezer. So packaging things correctly is the first half of freezer meal preps. The second half is definitely how to reheat correctly, and I have a whole video on that I will leave linked below that I filmed recently if you're wanting to know my tips and tricks on reheating freezer meals to make them taste fresh again. And I am gonna keep right on trucking with these onions. Okay, we've got our onion mess cleaned up, and I'm so glad to have those in the freezer. They're gonna be super convenient. Speaking of convenience-y foods, there are a few convenience foods, or what we consider convenience foods, at the store that can be made at home with very little effort. You can make them taste better, you can make them healthier, and they're still convenient if you can pull them out of your freezer at any moment. We're about to make two things that are definitely considered convenience-y foods. One of them is mac and cheese. That freezes really, really well. And I have this great gluten-free macaroni. I put some water on, just filled up one of my Dutch ovens with water. We're getting that up to a boil so we can make the macaroni part. We'll make the sauce here in a minute. And I am also putting some butter into my butter melting pot because we're gonna make some homemade French toast sticks. Yes, those French toast sticks you can buy in a box in the frozen section at the store. This recipe is absolutely amazing. It's so crunchy. It has that, gives that texture to the outside of the French toast stick, just like the ones that you buy at fast food restaurants or in the grocery store. The first thing I'm gonna do is crack a dozen eggs into this bowl here. And we are going to make this a gluten-free version of this recipe. You just need gluten-free breadcrumbs and gluten-free bread just to swap out in this recipe. It's not originally a gluten-free recipe, but you know, I'm always all about swapping things out and using any recipe I please. So these are from our chickens, and they are gonna make us some super delicious French toast sticks. Our water is up to a boil. I've got the butter going back here. And so I'm going to go ahead and put the pasta in here. We're gonna make our sauce in the saucepan over here. We're gonna work on the mac and cheese sauce in between, mixing up what we need to for the French toast sticks. Meal prepping is all about multitasking to get as much done in as little time as possible. I think I went a little overboard on the amount of water I had in this pot. And of course, we've got to salt the water. So this particular pasta needs about 9 minutes to boil. All right, so we're going to whisk our eggs up. And I have one of these little curly whisks. I love this. Use it all the time. Then you're going to add in some half and half. Some cinnamon. This is the red ape cinnamon that I love so much. We're gonna put cinnamon on the outside as well, but we want some in this mixture too. I don't know about you all, but the smell of French toast is so nostalgic to me. It just takes me back to my childhood, either at my grandparents' house or on like a weekend morning when my mom made French toast. Smells so good. You want a splash of vanilla, and we measure vanilla with our heart. Then I'm gonna be whisking in all-purpose gluten-free flour 1 for 1, but you can use regular flour or wheat or whatever you prefer. But you're gonna want to whisk as you put this in here, just so that you don't get too many big lumps in your batter. It's gonna happen. I really feel like it is, no matter what, unless you're using an electric beater. Okay, the last step to the wet part that we're gonna be dipping the bread into is the butter. And you're going to want to pour it in very slowly and keep on whisking. Okay, so now we're going to create our crunchy part. To make these crunchy, we're gonna use panko breadcrumbs. You could use regular or gluten-free. It doesn't really matter, whatever you prefer. And we are doubling this recipe. Each recipe calls for 3 cups. So I'm gonna measure that out. I think it's about a container. Yep, it's about a container of this brand. All right, you're gonna add sugar into this and some all-purpose flour. This is what is going to give us that crunch we're looking for. Just taking a fork and slowly stirring it all together. We will dip our French toast sticks here in a minute, but since our pasta is done, I'm gonna go ahead and get the sauce, the cheese sauce for the mac and cheese, cooked up. If you've never made mac and cheese from scratch, it is so incredibly simple, and it's always 10 times better. I do have a little soft spot for the box stuff though, not gonna lie, love that. But there is something about homemade mac and cheese that just can't beat it, can't beat it. So I'm starting out with some butter here in my pan. We're gonna let this melt first, and you need a whisk to do this. And as I say, every time we make a sauce like this, you wanna have everything ready. So I've got my flour and everything over here, and we are going to add things in as we go. We're gonna start out by putting the flour in tablespoon by tablespoon. The recipe will be linked below. While we're waiting for our milk to heat up and our cream sauce to thicken, I'm going to go ahead and get these trays ready for the French toast sticks. So we are not going to be cooking these right now. We're going to be freezing them and then getting them out of the freezer and putting them into the air fryer or the oven. So I have these racks that we're just going to stick right onto the cookie sheets. And I thought about lining these first, but then I realized that whatever gets on here is going to wash off very easily just because it'll melt, and I can just spray them off once everything is frozen. So we're going to kind of flash freeze these first. Don't worry, I am like running over and whisking the cream sauce in between all of this, but I like to make the best use of my time that I can. So this is gluten-free bread. You can use any bread you desire. You can use sourdough, you can use whole wheat, you can use white bread if you like that, whatever you want to use. I'm just trying to decide how many I want to slice here at one time. So I have one of my favorite knives ever. This is a bread knife, and I'm going to go ahead and slice it like this. I think this is about the size I want. Since this loaf is a little smaller, I think I'm going to do 2 slices or 2 pieces per slice. But if your loaf size was bigger, you could really get away with doing 3. But I think this is what I'm going to stick with. So I'm just going to make a nice big pile of them over here and slice through all of these. This would be absolutely delicious with sourdough. I just don't have any right now, and I rely on some friends and sister-in-laws to make my sourdough. And so I don't make it. I know how to make it. I've been through the sourdough phase. I know all the ins and outs. I can make it perfectly fine myself, but sometimes there are certain things in life that you just have to give up, and you can't do everything. So I am happy to pay those around me to make my sourdough for me. And yes, I'm going to make use of the ends as well, making little sticks out of those too. This is just going to be so good. They're going to be so crunchy. In we go with the liquid batter. I don't know if it's all gonna fit in here, but just, oh yeah, it'll fit. Just giving enough space to be able to dip everything. Okay, here we go. I'm probably gonna get really messy fingers from doing this, but it'll be worth it. It'll be so worth it. Okay, I'm actually, even though my rack isn't quite the right size for this pan, I'm probably just gonna have the sticks hang out over the edge so I can still fill it. I think it'll work out fine. So we're going to go ahead and douse it. This is really thick. I think with the flour in it, it sort of gives it more of a batter consistency, which I love that idea. Even just for making regular French toast, like why not throw some flour in with it? Perfect. And whoa, look at those. They're so great. So I'm just gonna keep on doing the same thing. I should actually have a wet and dry hand. That might help my situation. Okay, we're gonna try that. See if that helps me out on the mess factor. We will see. These little panko gluten-free breadcrumbs remind me of like the nerd candies. That's the exact size and shape that they are. All right, so we are to a nice consistency here, and I'm gonna turn it back just a little bit so we don't scald our sauce. I got out my food processor earlier today and shredded up a bunch of cheese that I was gonna need for this week, including this recipe. So this is a sharp cheddar that I'm putting in here. And I forget what the recipe calls for that I'm gonna leave linked below, but you can definitely put any type of cheese you want into this. I'm just going to use a mixture of sharp cheddar and mild. You can see how nice and thick it's getting. Now I'm going to add in the mild, and I'm not doing any crazy measurements with this, but you could definitely follow the recipe. Once you've got that cream base sauce, you can just add in the amount of cheese that you would want in it. Now to this cheese sauce, I'm also going to add a bit of salt and pepper. And you can also taste this as you go. I mean, if you feel like you taste it and you need some more salt or cheese, you can just add it as you go. This is the best part, when you can see the cheese stringing in your cheese sauce. Homemade cheese sauce is just so delicious. I just prefer that real cheese taste. All right, this is what we've all been waiting for, right? Here comes the cheese sauce. This is just that homemade liquid gold. My husband is going to be so thrilled that I made this week because he loves my homemade mac and cheese. My children do too. And I'm gonna be so pumped to have this in the freezer just to be able to pull it out so you don't have to go through this process to make it up in a couple of minutes. So usually when you make a mess, something is going to taste good, right? So as I'm rethinking this, I feel like if I froze these like this, then they would freeze to the grate, is what I'm kind of thinking. I think if I get freezer bags and lay them into a large freezer bag flat, they will freeze just fine, and I won't have to go through this kind of two-step process. We can just cut it in half and make one step. So I'm gonna get some freezer bags out and start putting these in there. I find it interesting how our generation has made it okay to have lots of frozen things in the frozen aisles at the grocery store, but then it's kind of like questionable for us to make those same items at home sometimes. And the reality is everything, for the most part, I can't think of an exception right now, maybe you can, but everything that is in the freezer section at the grocery store can be made at home. You can make it with your own ingredients, and sometimes you can even make it better. So I'm going to make up something that I do on occasion, and it's so incredibly helpful, especially because we do get our own beef ordered from the butcher. We have a friend that grows the beef, and so our beef comes ground, basically. And so I have 4 pounds of ground beef here. I'm just gonna go ahead and use this prime steak seasoning from Kinder's. And I'm not going to measure it or anything. I'm just gonna go ahead and shake it in here. And I'm going to make frozen meatballs. We buy them all the time at the store, and why not make our own? And talking about this two-step thing like we had with the French toast, I realized that if I freeze them in these pans, I don't need to do the flash freezing step and then transfer them to freezer bags. We just have one step. So whether I bake them in this pan or I fry them in the skillet, which is usually how I make my meatballs, it doesn't really matter. And the other thing that's really nice about making your own things, and I feel like I've said this for years, your own pre-made things, whether you're canning things or no matter how you are preserving the food, you get to customize your serving size, which is fantastic. So our beef, we get packaged in 2-pound packages. It's just with the size of our family, there's really no reason for us to package them in 1-pound packages. However, for some reason, I've noticed that we don't need quite 2 pounds for meatballs. So I have 4 pounds here, and I have 3 containers, and I'm gonna go ahead and kind of divvy it out between 3 meals. So it's already saving us as far as not having extra leftovers we don't really need and that kind of thing. Sometimes I like to have leftovers, but meatballs, for some reason in our house, they are a leftover that just doesn't seem to be the favorite. We like them the first time around, and a lot of times it's just one of those things that they don't want 2 meals of that in a week. So I'm going to go ahead and divvy these out. I'm so happy with what all I've gotten done today so far. It's just a lot. The mac and cheese, I'm just, yeah. The breakfast item already that's been done. the lunch item that's been done, all those onions. I'm just thrilled every time I do this. Sometimes it's a lot to plan it and get all the groceries you need to prep for the freezer, and it feels like a lot of work. Your feet hurt until you're done and all of that. But on the other hand, on days when I would maybe grab fast food or spend the money on food out, I have something that's really quick and easy, and I can count on that being in my freezer. And another thing I wanted to chat about is I have went back. You guys might remember at my other house, and no, I have not done a cellar tour at this house yet, but we do have one here, and it holds my home canned goods and our freezers and those sorts of things. But I picked up some magnetic whiteboards from the Dollar Tree. They're really small. They're kind of like the size of a sheet of paper. And I have one on the top of each of my freezers, my chest freezers. And on it, it just says what's in the freezer. And it's so easy because I can erase when I take something out of the freezer. I can just quickly add to it when I put something in. It's just the easiest system I have found to keep track of what I have in my freezers. And it really helps us to use up what's in there and not forget about something that's at the bottom. So even if it's on the bottom of the freezer, it is on that list, and I know I'll be able to find it easily. I've got to take these down to the deep freezer. I hope that this video really inspired you today. I'm telling you guys, these little freezer preps that I've been filming for you all, where it's maybe 4 hours worth of work, it's just so helpful in the grand scheme of your meal prepping, weekly meal prepping, daily meals, quick things you need to pull out and have a meal really fast. And on the other hand, there's something else I wanted to add into this idea of doing freezer meals. This is a great gift for somebody. Say you found out someone recently had a loss, or just, who knows, maybe it's a mom that's just having a really rough week. For you to be able to grab a meal out of your freezer on your way to their house, like you're going for a play date, you think about it, oh my goodness, I could take her supper right now. If you have these things in your freezer, it's so easy to do that. And so I just encourage you, put in a little extra time for yourself and maybe even for someone else, and it will totally be worth it. If this is the first video of mine that you've ever watched, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you want to, hit that subscribe button. I have lots of great meal ideas for you all. Definitely check out the links in the description box below. Give this video a like, chat with me in the comments. I love hearing from you all, and I'll see you all in my next video.